You don't need permission to be influential. You need belief and behavior that reflects it. The truth is, people follow those who act like leaders long before they're called one. If you want to be respected, speak like someone who already is. If you want to build trust, move like someone who already has it. Influence doesn't begin when the world acknowledges you. It begins when you decide to show up with certainty. Walk into the room like your voice matters and watch how people start listening. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind. And tell us, where are you watching from? You don't need to be born charming. Being likable is something you build, and it begins with how you make others feel. Listen carefully. The person sitting across from you at dinner tonight will forget what you wore. They will forget what you ordered. They will forget most of what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel in that moment. This is the fundamental truth about human connection, and it's why likability is not an accident of birth, but a skill you can master. I have spent decades studying what makes some people magnetic while others remain invisible. The difference is not luck, it's not genetics, it's not even talent. The difference is intention. Likable people understand that every interaction is an opportunity to leave someone feeling better than before. But here's what most people don't understand about likability. It's not about being funny, though humor helps. It's not about being attractive, though confidence is appealing. It's not about being wealthy, though resources can open doors. Likability is about making others feel valued, understood, and important in your presence. Think about the last person who truly impressed you, not someone who boasted about their achievements or tried to dazzle you with their intelligence. Think about someone who made you feel genuinely heard, someone who remembered details about your life, someone who asked questions that showed they cared about your thoughts, your struggles, your dreams. That person understood the secret. The secret is this: people are drawn to those who make them feel good about themselves, not those who make themselves look good to others. Every day you encounter dozens of people: the cashier at the grocery store, the colleague in the elevator, the neighbor walking their dog. Each interaction is a choice. You can move through these moments mechanically, focused only on your own agenda, or you can see each person as someone worthy of genuine attention and respect. The likable person chooses the second path. They understand that warmth is a decision, not a feeling. They understand that interest in others can be cultivated. They know that making someone feel important is a gift that costs nothing but returns everything. Start today, look at the next person you meet and ask yourself, how can I make this person feel valued? What can I notice about them that others might miss? What question can I ask that shows I see them as more than just a transaction in my day? This is not manipulation. This is humanity at its finest. When you genuinely care about the experience others have in your presence, you become someone they want to be around. You become influential not through force or position, but through the simple power of making people feel better about themselves when they're with you. Put your phone away. Look someone in the eye. This chapter explains why your full attention is the foundation of every connection. The most powerful tool for influence sits right behind your eyes. It's not your intelligence. It's not your charm. It's your attention, and most people give it away to screens instead of souls. Watch what happens when you walk into a coffee shop. Count how many people are looking down at their phones instead of up at the world around them. Notice how many conversations happen between people who are physically present but mentally absent. This is the great tragedy of our time. We have forgotten how to be where we are. But here's the opportunity. In a world where everyone is distracted, your full presence becomes magnetic. When you give someone your complete attention, you give them something rare and precious. You give them the feeling that they matter. Real presence means more than just putting your phone in your pocket. It means putting your thoughts in the moment. It means listening with your whole body, not just your ears. It means resisting the urge to plan what you'll say next while the other person is still speaking. I learned this lesson early in my career. I was at a dinner party, eager to impress the other guests with my wit and wisdom. I spent the entire evening waiting for my turn to speak, barely listening to what others shared. At the end of the night, nobody remembered what I had said, but I remembered how disconnected I felt from everyone in that room. The next week, I attended another gathering. This time, I made a different choice. I decided to become genuinely curious about each person I met. I asked questions and listened to the answers. I maintained eye contact. I nodded when they made important points. I asked follow-up questions that showed I was tracking with their thoughts. The difference was remarkable. People stayed in conversations with me longer. They shared more personal stories. They seemed more animated, more alive. By the end of the evening, 3 different people asked for my contact information, not because I had impressed them with my brilliance, but because I had given them something more valuable than clever words. I had given them my presence. Your attention is a spotlight. Wherever you direct it, life becomes more vivid. When you shine that light on another person, they feel seen, heard, and valued. This is the foundation of all influence. Before you can move someone's mind, you must first occupy their awareness completely. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone gave you their undivided attention? How did it feel? Chances are it felt extraordinary because it's so rare. Most people are performing their interest rather than feeling it. They're nodding while planning their grocery list. They're smiling while checking mental emails. True presence requires discipline. It means fighting the urge to multitask. It means accepting that the conversation you're in right now is the most important thing happening in your world at this moment. It means treating each person as if they have something valuable to teach you, because they do. Start practicing this immediately. In your next conversation, notice when your mind wanders. Gently bring it back. Notice when you start planning. Your response, stop and listen instead. Notice when you feel the impulse to check your phone. Resist it. Your presence is your power. Use it wisely. The first habit of highly likable people, sincere curiosity. Ask better questions. Care about the answers. Connection follows naturally. Most people spend conversations waiting for their turn to talk about themselves. The influential person does the opposite. They become fascinated by the person in front of them. They ask questions that unlock stories. They listen for clues about what matters most to someone's heart. This is not a strategy. This is a transformation. When you become genuinely curious about others, everything changes. Your conversations become deeper. Your relationships become stronger. Your influence expands naturally because people trust those who truly see them. But let me ask you something. When you meet someone new, what are you most interested in? Learning about them or impressing them with your own story? Be honest. Most of us are silently rehearsing what we'll say next. Instead of absorbing what they're saying now, I discovered this truth by accident. Years ago, I found myself at a party where I knew almost no one. Instead of trying to be interesting, I decided to become interested. I approached conversations with one simple goal: learn something meaningful about each person I met. I asked a woman about her work and discovered she was developing clean water solutions for rural communities. I asked a man about his weekend plans and learned he was teaching his daughter to play chess. I asked another person about their hometown and heard stories about growing up in a small fishing village in Maine. By the end of the evening, I had collected a treasure trove of human experiences, but more importantly, I had made real connections. These people remembered our conversations because they felt heard, understood, and valued. Here's what most people don't understand about curiosity. It's not about asking any questions, it's about asking the right questions. Surface-level questions get surface-level answers. What do you do? Leads to job titles. How's your day? Leads to fine. But when you dig deeper, you discover what makes someone come alive. Instead of, what do you do? Try, what's the most challenging part of your work right now? Instead of, how was your weekend? Try, what's something you did recently that made you lose track of time? Instead of, where are you from? Try, what do you miss most about the place you grew up? Notice the difference. These questions require thought. They invite storytelling. They create space for vulnerability and connection. But here's the crucial part. You must genuinely care about the answers. People can sense when your interest is authentic versus performed. Genuine curiosity feels warm and inviting. Fake interest feels cold and calculating. When someone shares something meaningful with you, follow up. Ask clarifying questions. Share how their experience connects to something in your own life. Show that their words have landed somewhere important inside you. This approach transforms you from someone who takes up space in conversations to someone who creates space for others to shine. And when people feel they can shine in your presence, they want to be around you. They begin to associate you with feeling good about themselves. The most influential people I know have mastered this art. They remember details about your life. They ask about your projects, your family, your dreams. They make you feel like the most interesting person in the room, not because they diminish themselves, but because they elevate you. Your genuine interest in others is a gift. It costs you nothing but attention, yet it's worth more than gold to the person receiving it. Start giving this gift freely and watch how quickly your influence grows. It's simple, it's free, and it disarms even the coldest room. Learn how a genuine smile changes the energy around you. Your face is the first thing people notice about you. Before you speak a word, before you extend a handshake, before you share your credentials or accomplishments, your expression has already communicated volumes. The question is, what message are you sending? I have watched thousands of people enter rooms, board elevators, and approach conversations. The ones who command positive attention, the ones people gravitate toward, almost always begin with a genuine smile. Not a forced grin, not a nervous laugh. A real smile that starts from within and radiates outward. But here's what most people don't understand about smiling. It's not about pretending to be happy when you're not. It's about choosing to focus on the good that exists in each moment, even when circumstances are challenging. A genuine smile reflects an inner decision to approach life with warmth rather than coldness, hope rather than cynicism. Think about the last time someone smiled at you, really smiled, not just moved their lips, but lit up their entire face. How did it make you feel? Chances are it made you feel welcome, valued, maybe even a little happier yourself. This is the power of a genuine smile. It's contagious. It transforms not just your face, but the atmosphere around you. The science behind this is remarkable. When you smile, your brain releases endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin, chemicals that naturally boost your mood and reduce stress. But it doesn't stop there. When others see your smile, mirror neurons in their brains fire, causing them to feel happier too. You literally have the power to improve someone's day just by changing your expression. I learned this lesson during my early years in public speaking. I was nervous, serious, focused on not making mistakes. My face reflected this tension, and audiences responded with tension of their own. The rooms felt cold, formal, disconnected. Then I made a simple change. Before stepping on stage, I would think about something that genuinely made me happy. Perhaps a letter from a grateful student or a moment with my family. I would let that feeling fill my chest and spread to my face. The difference was immediate and dramatic. Audiences became warmer, more receptive, more engaged. Your smile is a bridge between your inner world and the outer world. When you smile, genuinely, you signal to others that you're safe to approach, pleasant to be around, and positive in your outlook. This makes people want to know you better, trust you more, and support your ideas. But let me be clear about something. I'm not suggesting you become a perpetually grinning person who ignores real problems or difficult emotions. Life includes pain, loss, and legitimate reasons for sorrow. A genuine smile acknowledges both the light and darkness of human experience. While choosing to emphasize the light, the key word is genuine. People can sense the difference between a real smile and a fake one. A real smile engages your entire face. Your eyes crinkle slightly, your cheeks rise, your whole expression becomes animated. A fake smile only moves your mouth and feels hollow. Practice smiling when you're alone. Look in the mirror and think about someone you love or something you're grateful for. Watch how your face changes. Notice how the feeling spreads through your body. This is the smile you want to bring into the world. Start tomorrow morning. Smile at the person making your coffee. Smile at your colleague in the hallway. Smile at the stranger in the elevator. Don't do it because you feel like it. Do it because you choose to spread warmth rather than coldness. Your smile is one of the most powerful tools for influence you possess. It costs nothing. It requires no special training. It works in every culture, every language, every situation. Use it generously, and watch how the world begins to smile back. A person's name is a golden bridge to trust. This chapter explores how to remember names, and why doing so makes people instantly feel valued. The sweetest sound in any language is the sound of one's own name, yet most people forget names within seconds of hearing them. This is a tragedy, because remembering someone's name is one of the simplest and most powerful ways to make them feel important. Your name is not just a collection of letters or sounds. It represents your identity, your family history, your parents' hopes for who you might become. When someone remembers and uses your name, they acknowledge your individual worth. When they forget it, they signal that you're not worth remembering. I have made it a practice to remember names for over 5 decades. Not because I have a naturally superior memory, I don't, but because I understand the enormous impact this small act has on building relationships and influence. When you remember someone's name, you instantly separate yourself from the vast majority of people who don't. But here's what most people don't understand about remembering names. The problem isn't your memory, it's your attention. You don't forget names because you can't remember them. You forget them because you never really heard them in the first place. Think about the last time you were introduced to someone. Were you fully present in that moment, or were you thinking about what you would say next? Were you focused on their name, or were you already planning how to impress them with your own introduction? Most people are so concerned with making a good impression that they miss the very information that would help them make the best impression of all. Here's how to change this pattern immediately. When someone tells you their name, repeat it back to them right away. Nice to meet you, Sarah. This simple repetition serves 3 purposes. It confirms you heard correctly, it helps cement the name in your memory, and it gives them the pleasure of hearing their name spoken with attention and respect. But don't stop there. Use their name again within the first few minutes of conversation. Sarah, what brought you to this event tonight? Then, use it again when you part ways. It was wonderful meeting you, Sarah. I hope to see you again soon. Some people worry this. Sounds unnatural or forced. It doesn't. What sounds unnatural is calling someone, "Hey you," or avoiding their name entirely because you forgot it. What feels forced is that awkward moment when you have to ask someone to repeat their name for the 3rd time. If you do forget someone's name, don't panic. Simply say, "I apologize, but I want to make sure I remember your name correctly. Could you remind me?" Most people appreciate the honesty and the fact that you care enough to get it right. For difficult or unusual names, ask about the pronunciation or the origin. That's a beautiful name. How do you pronounce it? Or is that Irish? Or does that name have a special meaning? People are usually happy to share this information, and the conversation helps you remember both the name and something meaningful about the person. Write names down if you can do so discreetly. If you're at a networking event or conference, jot names on business cards along with a note about where you met or what you discussed. If you're at a dinner party, create a mental or actual seating chart. Use whatever method works for you, but make the effort. The impact of remembering names extends far beyond making people feel good, though that alone is worthwhile. When you remember someone's name, they're more likely to remember you. They're more likely to trust you. They're more likely to do business with you, support your ideas, and speak positively about you to others. I have seen careers advanced and deals closed simply because someone took the time to remember and use names correctly. I have also seen opportunities lost because someone couldn't be bothered to learn what to call the people they wanted to influence. Your commitment to remembering names is a commitment to treating others as individuals worthy of attention and respect. It's a small discipline that yields enormous returns. Start practicing it today and watch how quickly your influence grows. Listening is not waiting to speak, it's creating space for others to be heard. Learn the body language, phrases, and mindset of a true listener. The rarest gift you can give another human being is your complete attention while they speak. Most people have never experienced this. They've experienced people who nod while planning their response. They've experienced people who interrupt with their own stories. They've experienced people who listen for ammunition rather than understanding. But true listening, it's almost extinct. This is your opportunity. In a world full of people desperate to be heard, the person who truly listens becomes magnetic. They become trusted. They become influential. Not because they talk the most, but because they create space for others to feel understood. Real listening begins before the other person opens their mouth. It starts with your posture, your eye contact, your willingness to be fully present. Your body language communicates whether you're truly interested or just being polite. Turn your body toward the speaker. Put down your phone, uncross your arms, lean in slightly. These simple adjustments signal that you're engaged and receptive. The speaker notices, even if unconsciously, and feels permission to share more deeply. But here's what most people don't understand about listening. It's not passive. Good listening is active, engaged, responsive. It requires you to track not just the words being spoken, but the emotions underneath those words. It means listening for what someone cares about, what they're struggling with, what they hope for. When someone is speaking, resist the urge to immediately relate their experience to your own. This is the most common listening mistake. Someone says, "I had a difficult conversation with my boss today." And you respond, "Oh, I hate my boss too. Let me tell you what happened to me last week." You think you're being empathetic, but you've actually stolen their moment and made it about you. Instead, stay with their experience. Ask questions that help them explore their own thoughts and feelings. That sounds frustrating. How did you handle it? Or, what was the most difficult part about that conversation? These responses keep the focus where it belongs, on the person who was speaking. Use verbal confirmation to show you're tracking with them. Simple phrases like, "I understand," "That makes sense," or "Tell me more about that," encourage the speaker to continue. They feel heard and validated, which builds trust and connection. Pay attention to what people don't say as much as what they do say. Notice when someone's voice changes, when they pause, when they seem to struggle with finding the right words. These moments often contain the most important information. A gentle question like, "What's really on your mind?" can unlock deeper conversation. Listen for values, not just events. When someone tells you about their day, they're not just sharing facts, they're revealing what matters to them. The person who gets excited talking about helping a colleague solve a problem values service. The person who lights up discussing a creative project values innovation. These insights help you understand who they really are. Remember details from previous conversations. When someone mentions they were worried about a presentation, follow up later. How did that presentation go? When they share excitement about their child's baseball game, ask about it the next time you see them. This kind of follow-through is rare and powerful. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you had a conversation where you felt completely heard? Where someone listened not to respond, but to understand? Where you walked away feeling like your thoughts and feelings mattered to another human being? That feeling is what you can give to others through the gift of genuine listening. And when You give that gift consistently, people begin to seek you out. They trust you with their ideas, their concerns, their dreams. They value your opinion because they know you've truly heard theirs. Your influence grows not from the brilliance of your words, but from the quality of your attention. Listen like it matters, because it does. You don't have to agree with someone to make them feel understood. This chapter explores how to acknowledge people's emotions without judgment. One of the most powerful phrases in human communication is not "you're right" or "I agree." It's something much simpler. "I can see why you would feel that way." These 9 words can transform conflict into connection, defensiveness into openness, resistance into receptivity. Validation is not agreement. You can validate someone's feelings without endorsing their conclusions. You can acknowledge their perspective without adopting it as your own. This distinction is crucial because it allows you to honor someone's humanity while maintaining your own integrity. Most people confuse validation with approval. They think that to validate someone's emotions, they must agree with their actions or decisions. This false belief leads to 2 equally destructive responses. Either they fake agreement to avoid conflict, or they dismiss the person's feelings to maintain their own position. Both responses damage relationships and diminish influence. When you fake agreement, you build connection on a foundation of dishonesty that will eventually crumble. When you dismiss feelings, you communicate that the other person's inner experience doesn't matter to you. Validation offers a third way. It says, "Your feelings are real and understandable, even if I see the situation differently." This approach builds trust because it demonstrates respect for the other person's humanity while maintaining space for honest dialogue. I learned this lesson during a heated discussion with a colleague who felt overlooked for a promotion. My immediate instinct was to defend the decision by listing all the reasons why someone else was chosen. But instead I paused and said, "I can understand why you'd feel disappointed. You worked hard on that project and expected recognition." The effect was immediate. His defensiveness melted. His voice softened. Instead of continuing to argue, he began to share more honestly about his frustrations and aspirations. We had a productive conversation about his career development that never would have happened if I had started by defending the promotion decision. Validation works because it addresses a fundamental human need, the need to be understood. When people feel misunderstood, they become more entrenched in their positions. They repeat themselves more loudly, hoping finally to be heard. But when they feel understood, they relax. They become more open to other perspectives. Here's how to validate effectively. First, listen for the emotion behind the words. Someone might be saying, "This policy is ridiculous," but what they're feeling is frustration or powerlessness. Address the feeling, "It sounds like you're frustrated with how this policy affects your work." Second, avoid the word "but." When you say, "I understand you're frustrated," but you negate everything that came before the "but." Instead, use "and." "I understand you're frustrated, and I'd like to help us find a solution." Third, reflect not just what they said, but what they might be experiencing. "This situation must feel overwhelming," or "I imagine this has been stressful for you." These statements show you're thinking about their inner experience, not just their external circumstances. Fourth, ask questions that help them feel heard. What's been the hardest part about the situation? Or what would help most right now? These questions demonstrate genuine interest in their perspective. Validation doesn't mean you become a doormat or abandon your own needs and opinions. It means you create emotional safety that allows for real dialogue. When people feel understood, they're more willing to listen to your perspective. When they feel dismissed, they shut down or become combative. Practice this in low-stakes situations. First, when your spouse complains about traffic, resist the urge to offer solutions and simply say, "That sounds frustrating." When a friend shares disappointment about a canceled plan, acknowledge their feeling before suggesting alternatives. The power of validation extends beyond individual conversations. Teams that practice validation have better communication. Families that validate each other's feelings have stronger relationships. Organizations that validate employee concerns have higher engagement and trust. Your ability to make others feel understood, even when you disagree with them, is one of your greatest tools for influence. Use it wisely and watch how it transforms every relationship in your life. Forget flattery. Learn how to give recognition that feels real, deepens connection, and builds loyalty. Most people starve for genuine recognition while drowning in empty compliments. They hear "good job" and "nice work" so often that these phrases have lost all meaning. But when someone offers specific, thoughtful praise based on real observation, it cuts through the noise like a clear bell in a crowded room. The difference between flattery and genuine praise is the difference between junk food and nourishment. Flattery is designed to make you look good. It's about what you want from the other person. Genuine praise is designed to make them feel truly seen. It's about what you've noticed and appreciated about them. Flattery is generic. "You're amazing. You're the best. You're so talented." These statements could apply to anyone and therefore mean nothing to everyone. Genuine praise is specific. It identifies exactly what someone did, why it mattered, and how it affected you or others. I once watched a manager transform her team's performance simply by changing how she gave recognition. Instead of saying, "Great presentation, John," she began saying things like, "John, the way you anticipated the client's budget concerns and addressed them proactively in slide 7. That showed real strategic thinking. I could see how it put them at ease." The impact was remarkable. John didn't just feel good, he understood exactly what he had done well and could replicate it. Other team members began incorporating similar techniques into their own presentations. The quality of the entire team's work improved because the praise was educational, not just emotional. But here's what most people don't understand about giving praise. The goal is not to make someone feel good in the moment, though that's a wonderful side effect. The goal is to reinforce the behaviors and qualities you want to see more of. Specific praise is a tool for shaping culture, improving performance, and strengthening relationships. When you notice someone doing something well, capture the details. What exactly did they do? What was the impact? Why was it meaningful? Then, share these observations while they're still fresh. Instead of "Thanks for your help," try "The way you stayed late to help me prepare for that presentation made all the difference. Your insights about the client's previous concerns helped me anticipate their questions, and I felt much more confident going into the meeting." Instead of "You're a great leader," try "I watched how you handled that difficult conversation with the team yesterday. You listened to everyone's concerns, acknowledged their frustrations, and then guided them toward a solution they could all support." That's the kind of leadership that builds trust. Instead of "Nice outfit," try "That color brings out your eyes beautifully," or "You always put together such thoughtful combinations. I admire your sense of style." Notice the difference. Specific praise requires you to pay attention, to observe, to think about the impact of someone's actions or qualities. This attention is itself a gift. It says, "You matter enough for me to notice what you do well." But be careful about one thing. Your praise must be genuine. People can sense when recognition is manufactured or manipulative. If you don't truly mean what you're saying, don't say it. Empty praise is worse than no praise at all because it erodes trust. Look for praiseworthy moments that others might miss. The colleague who always remembers to bring coffee for the early meeting. The friend who asks thoughtful follow-up questions about your projects. The family member who handles stress with grace. These everyday excellences often go unnoticed, which makes your recognition even more powerful. Praise people for who they are, not just what they do. "You have such a generous spirit" hits differently than "Thanks for buying lunch." "I admire your integrity" resonates more deeply than "Good choice." These character-based recognitions help people see themselves more clearly and positively. Don't wait for perfect moments to offer praise. Small, frequent recognitions often have more impact than grand gestures. A text message saying, "I was just thinking about how patient you were with that difficult customer today." It showed real professionalism can brighten someone's entire week. Your specific, genuine praise becomes a mirror that helps others see their best selves. When you consistently notice and articulate what people do well, they become more likely to repeat those behaviors. They also become more loyal to you because you've shown them something precious, their own value through your eyes. In a world that's quick to criticize and slow to celebrate, your thoughtful recognition becomes a beacon of light. Use this power generously and watch how it transforms not just others, but the quality of all your relationships. Matching someone's tone, pace, and presence builds unconscious rapport. This isn't manipulation, it's empathy in action. Human beings are wired for connection. Without conscious thought, we naturally synchronize with those around us. We match breathing patterns with people we feel close to. We adopt similar postures. When we're engaged in meaningful conversation, we unconsciously mirror the energy of those we trust and respect. This mirroring happens automatically when rapport is genuine. But you can also use it intentionally to build connection more quickly and deeply. When you consciously match someone's communication style, you create a bridge between your worlds that makes understanding and influence possible. Watch how people communicate, and you'll notice they have distinct patterns. Some speak quickly, with animated gestures, their energy bright and expansive. Others communicate more slowly and thoughtfully, their presence calm and grounded. Some people are direct and decisive. Others are more reflective and exploratory. The mistake most people make is communicating in only one style, their own. They speak rapidly to someone who processes slowly. They bring high energy to someone who prefers low energy. They push for quick decisions with someone who needs time to reflect. Then they wonder why connection feels forced or awkward. Effective communicators adapt their style to match the person they're speaking with, not in a fake or manipulative way, but as a genuine expression of respect for how that person naturally operates in the world. If someone speaks softly, lower your voice. If they speak slowly, slow down your pace. If they're naturally enthusiastic, let yourself become more animated. If they're more reserved, dial back your intensity. This matching creates an unconscious sense of familiarity and comfort. I learned this lesson while working with a client who seemed resistant to every suggestion I made. Our conversations felt strained and unproductive. Then I noticed something. He spoke very deliberately, with long pauses between thoughts. I, on the other hand, was speaking quickly and jumping from point to point. In our next meeting, I consciously slowed down my speech. I left space for silence after he spoke. I matched his thoughtful, measured pace. The change was immediate. He became more engaged, more open to discussion, more willing to explore new ideas. By honoring his communication style, I created space for real dialogue, but mirroring goes beyond speech patterns. Notice how someone sits, stands, and moves through space. Are they relaxed and casual, or more formal and structured? Do they use expansive gestures or keep their movements contained? Do they maintain steady eye contact or glance away frequently? Subtle adjustments in your own body language can create powerful connections. If someone sits back in their chair, don't lean forward aggressively. If they speak with their hands, allow yourself to gesture more naturally. If they prefer more physical distance, respect that boundary. The key word is subtle. You're not mimicking or mocking, you're harmonizing. You're finding a way to meet someone in their communication comfort zone rather than forcing them to adapt to yours. This principle applies to emotional energy as well. If someone is sharing something serious or painful, don't respond with inappropriate cheerfulness. Match their emotional tone while offering support. If they're excited about an achievement, let yourself share in their enthusiasm rather than dampening it with excessive caution. Pay attention to the words people use and the metaphors that resonate with them. Some people think in visual terms and use phrases like, "I see what you mean," or "that looks good to me." Others are more auditory and say things like, "that sounds right," or "I hear what you're saying." Still others are kinesthetic and use phrases like, "that feels comfortable," or "I can grasp that concept." When you use language that matches someone's natural processing style, your ideas make more sense to them. They feel understood and are more likely to understand you in return. But here's the most important thing to remember. This mirroring must come from a place of genuine respect and interest. If you're just trying to manipulate someone into liking you or agreeing with you, they'll sense the insincerity and trust will be damaged. True mirroring is an act of empathy. It's saying, "I'm willing to meet you where you are," instead of insisting that you come to where I am. This willingness to adapt creates safety, connection, and the foundation for real influence. Practice this awareness in your next conversation. Notice the other person's natural style and experiment with matching it authentically. You'll be amazed at how quickly rapport deepens when you honor the way someone naturally shows up in the world. When you let others lead the conversation, they feel respected. And when they feel respected, they remember you fondly, the most confident. Move you can make in conversation is often saying nothing at all. While others rush to fill silence with their own thoughts, you can create space for something more valuable. The other person's ideas, concerns, and perspectives. Most people approach conversations with an agenda. They have points to make, stories to tell, opinions to share. They listen just long enough to find an opening where they can insert their own content. This approach might help them feel heard, but it rarely helps them be influential. The person who influences others takes a different approach. They enter conversations curious rather than certain. They ask questions rather than making statements. They create space for others to think out loud, to explore their own thoughts, to feel truly heard. This requires a fundamental shift in how you view the purpose of conversation. If you see conversation as a competition for airtime, you'll fight to speak first and most. But if you see conversation as an opportunity to understand and connect, you'll recognize the power of patient listening. When you let someone else speak first, several powerful things happen. First, you learn what's actually on their mind, rather than what you assume is on their mind. Most people enter conversations with predictions about what the other person thinks or feels. These predictions are usually wrong and lead to irrelevant or tone-deaf responses. Second, when people have a chance to express themselves fully, they become more receptive to hearing from you. It's like emotional pressure that needs to be released before any new information can enter. Try to give input before they've had their say, and your words will bounce off their preoccupation with their own unexpressed thoughts. Third, you gather crucial information about how to frame your own ideas in ways that will resonate. When you speak first, you're shooting arrows into the dark. When you listen first, you learn exactly where the target is. I once observed a master salesperson who closed more deals than anyone else in his company. His secret wasn't a compelling pitch or clever techniques. His secret was that he never pitched at all until he thoroughly understood what the customer actually wanted. He would begin every meeting with questions. What's working well with your current system? What challenges are you hoping to solve? What would success look like to you? He would listen to the answers, ask follow-up questions, and listens, some more. Only after he had a complete picture of their situation would he speak about his own offerings. The results were remarkable. Customers felt understood and heard. They trusted him because he had taken time to learn about their world. When he finally did present solutions, they were precisely targeted to the needs that had been expressed. His closing rate was extraordinary because he never tried to sell anything that didn't fit. This principle applies far beyond sales. In family discussions, let your spouse share their perspective before jumping in with your own. In team meetings, ask others for their input before presenting your ideas. In conflicts, give the other person space to express their frustrations before defending your position. But here's what most people don't understand about letting others speak first. It's not about being passive or having no opinions of your own. It's about being strategic. When you understand what someone else thinks and feels, you can communicate your own thoughts in ways that connect with theirs. The person who speaks first often feels like they're controlling the conversation, but the person who listens first is actually gathering the information they need to be truly influential. They learn what language to use, what concerns to address, what benefits to emphasize. This approach requires patience and genuine curiosity. You must resist the urge to interrupt, to correct, to share your own related story before they've finished theirs. You must become comfortable with silence and trust that creating space for others ultimately creates more space for you. Practice this in low-stakes conversations. Ask your friend how their day went and really listen to the answer before sharing about your own day. Ask your colleague what they think about a new policy before offering your opinion. Ask your family member what they're excited about this week. Before talking about your own plans, notice how these conversations feel different. Notice how people open up more when they feel heard. Notice how your own contributions land more effectively when you've taken time to understand the context. Your willingness to let others speak first is a gift of respect and attention. It demonstrates confidence in your own value. You don't need to prove yourself immediately because you know you have something worthwhile to offer when the time is right. In a world full of people desperate to be heard, the person who creates space for listening becomes magnetic. Let others speak first and watch how quickly they want to hear what you have to say. People trust those who feel familiar. Learn how to spot shared values, experiences, or beliefs to create instant rapport. Within the first few minutes of meeting someone, your brain makes a crucial decision. Is this person like me or different from me? Friend or potential threat? Safe or dangerous? This ancient wiring helped our ancestors survive, and it still shapes every interaction you have today. The people who master influence understand this psychological reality and use it to their advantage. They become skilled at quickly identifying and highlighting commonalities that make them feel familiar and trustworthy to others. They know that people are more likely to like, trust, and be influenced by those who seem similar to themselves. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about authentically discovering the genuine connections that already exist between you and others. Every person you meet shares something with you: values, experiences, challenges, hopes, interests, or background. Your job is to find these connection points quickly and naturally. Listen for clues in casual conversation. When someone mentions they're from Ohio and you spent summers there as a child, that's common ground. When they talk about the challenges of working from home and you've faced similar struggles, that's a connection point. When they mention loving hiking and you enjoy being outdoors, you've found shared interest. But don't just collect these facts. Use them to deepen the conversation. Oh, you're from Columbus. I used to visit my grandmother there every summer. I loved going to the state fair. Do you have fond memories of growing up there? This shows you're genuinely interested in their experience, not just making superficial connections. The most powerful common ground often lies in shared values rather than shared facts. Someone might have grown up on the opposite coast, work in a different industry, and enjoy completely different hobbies than you. But if you both value family or hard work or creativity or fairness, you have a foundation for real connection. Pay attention to what people get excited about when they talk. Their energy will shift when they discuss something they care deeply about. That passion often reveals their core values. When you can authentically share enthusiasm for similar principles, instant rapport develops. I once connected deeply with a potential business partner, not because we had similar backgrounds, we didn't, but because we both lit up when discussing the importance of treating employees with respect and dignity. That shared value became the foundation of a successful, long-term relationship. Look for shared challenges as well as shared interests. The executive struggling with work-life balance and the small business owner dealing with similar pressures have common ground in their shared experience, even if their specific situations are different. The parent worried about their teenager and the teacher concerned about student engagement both understand the complexity of guiding young people. Shared. Struggles often create deeper bonds than shared successes. When you can say, "I know exactly what you mean," about a difficulty someone is facing, they feel less alone and more understood. This creates trust and openness that would take much longer to develop otherwise. Be genuine in your search for commonality. Don't force connections that don't exist or exaggerate similarities that are minor. People can sense when you're being authentic versus when you're trying to manipulate them into liking you. Authentic connections feel natural and energizing. Forced connections feel awkward and suspicious. Sometimes the common ground isn't immediately obvious. You might need to ask questions to discover it. What drew you to this field? What do you love most about living in this city? What's been the most rewarding part of this project? These questions help uncover values, experiences, and interests that might align with your own. Once you've identified common ground, reference it throughout your interactions. As fellow parents, you probably understand, or since we both, appreciate good design, or given our shared experience with startups. These references reinforce the connection and make your ongoing communication feel more natural and relevant. But remember, finding common ground is just the beginning. The goal isn't to establish that you're similar, it's to create a foundation for trust, understanding, and influence. Use the connections you discover to deepen conversations, build relationships, and ultimately serve others more effectively. Your ability to quickly identify and highlight genuine commonalities is one of your most valuable social skills. It helps others feel comfortable with you, opens doors for deeper conversation, and creates the trust necessary for real influence. Practice this awareness in every interaction. Look for the threads that connect your experience to theirs. Celebrate the values you share. Acknowledge the challenges you both understand. In a world that often emphasizes differences, your focus on commonalities becomes a bridge to better relationships and greater influence. Even when you disagree, never make someone feel small. This chapter teaches how to express difference without diminishing the other. The moment you make someone feel stupid, wrong, or insignificant is the moment you lose all possibility of influencing them. Yet this is exactly what most people do when they encounter ideas different from their own. They dismiss, they correct, they argue, and in doing so, they build walls instead of bridges. Disagreement is inevitable in human relationships. People see the world through different lenses, bring different experiences to problems, and reach different conclusions about the same information. The question is not whether you'll encounter different perspectives. It's how you'll respond when you do. Most people handle disagreement in ways that damage relationships and reduce their influence. They say things like, "That's wrong, you don't understand," "That makes no sense," or "That's a terrible idea." These responses might feel satisfying in the moment, but they achieve nothing positive. They make the other person defensive, shut down dialogue, and eliminate any chance of finding common ground. There's a better way. You can acknowledge someone's perspective while maintaining your own. You can show respect for their thinking process while offering alternative viewpoints. You can disagree with ideas without dismissing the person who holds them. This starts with your language. Instead of "you're wrong," try "I see it differently." Instead of "that won't work," try "I'm concerned about how that might play out." Instead of "that's ridiculous," try "help me understand your thinking on that." Notice the difference. The first set of responses attacks the person or their idea directly. The second set creates space for dialogue while expressing your different perspective. The first approach shuts down conversation. The second approach opens it up. But this isn't just about being polite. It's about being effective. When you acknowledge someone's perspective before offering your own, they're much more likely to listen to what you have to say. When you show respect for their thinking process, even while disagreeing with their conclusions, they remain open to influence. I learned this lesson during a heated board meeting where members were divided on a significant decision. One colleague presented an idea that I believed would be damaging to the organization. My instinct was to point out all the flaws in his reasoning and explain why he was wrong. Instead, I took a different approach. I can see you've put a lot of thought into this, and I appreciate your concern for our long-term sustainability. I share that concern, and I have some different ideas about how we might address it. This acknowledgement allowed him to save face while opening space for alternative perspectives. The result was remarkable. Instead of becoming defensive about his original idea, he became curious about other options. We ended up having a productive discussion that led to a solution neither of us had initially considered. Had I started by attacking his proposal, he would have dug in deeper and refused to consider alternatives. This principle applies to more than just business disagreements. When your teenager wants to do something you think is unwise, acknowledge their desire for independence before expressing your concerns. When your spouse suggests a vacation destination you're not excited about, appreciate their thoughtfulness before proposing alternatives. The phrase, "I can see why you might think that," is incredibly powerful. It validates the other person's reasoning. Process without requiring you to agree with their conclusion. It shows respect for their intelligence while maintaining space for your own perspective. Sometimes people hold views that seem obviously wrong to you. In these moments, curiosity serves you better than correction. Ask questions that help you understand how they arrived at their conclusion. What led you to that perspective? What information are you considering? What would need to change for you to see it differently? These questions serve multiple purposes. They show respect for the other person's thinking. They help you understand the logic behind their position, and they often reveal information or considerations you hadn't thought of yourself. Remember, the goal of acknowledging different perspectives isn't to avoid all disagreement. It's to disagree in ways that preserve relationships and keep dialogue open. You can be firm in your convictions while remaining respectful of others who hold different convictions. Your ability to acknowledge before you advocate, to validate before you challenge, to respect before you redirect, is one of your most powerful tools for influence. It demonstrates emotional maturity, intellectual humility, and genuine respect for others. Practice this in small disagreements first. When someone expresses a preference different from yours, acknowledge their perspective before sharing your own. When someone reaches a different conclusion about a minor issue, show respect for their reasoning before offering alternative views. In a world full of people who feel dismissed and misunderstood, your willingness to acknowledge different perspectives becomes a rare gift. Use this gift generously and watch how it transforms your ability to influence others while maintaining the relationships that matter most. People aren't drawn to your resume. They're drawn to how you make them feel about themselves. Focus there. The greatest mistake ambitious people make is trying to be impressive instead of being helpful. They lead with their credentials instead of their curiosity. They showcase their achievements instead of celebrating others. They try to be the smartest person in the room instead of making everyone else feel smart. This approach backfires spectacularly. When you try to impress people, you inadvertently make them feel small by comparison. When you highlight your successes, you remind others of their failures. When you demonstrate your knowledge, you expose their ignorance. The result is that people feel diminished in your presence rather than elevated. The most influential people understand a counterintuitive truth. Your power grows when you focus on empowering others. Your status rises when you help others feel important. Your influence expands when you make people feel better about themselves rather than worse. Think about the people you most enjoy being around. Are they the ones who constantly talk about their accomplishments? The ones who name drop and credential drop in every conversation? The ones who always have a story that's more impressive than yours? Probably not. The people you're drawn to are likely those who make you feel heard, valued, and capable. They ask about your projects and seem genuinely interested in the answers. They remember things that matter to you. They offer encouragement when you're struggling and celebrate when you succeed. They see potential in you that you might not even see in yourself. This is not about diminishing yourself or hiding your achievements. It's about recognizing that your accomplishments speak loudly enough on their own. You don't need to constantly announce them. When you're secure in your own value, you're free to focus on adding value to others. Instead of telling people how successful you are, show interest in their success. Instead of sharing your impressive connections, help them make valuable connections. Instead of highlighting your expertise, ask questions that reveal theirs. Instead of being the center of attention, help others shine. I once watched a CEO transform a room full of skeptical employees simply by changing his approach to introduction. Instead of listing his degrees, previous companies, and achievements, he said, "I'm here because I believe this team has incredible potential, and I want to do everything I can to help you succeed." The shift in energy was immediate. Instead of feeling intimidated by his credentials, employees felt inspired by his confidence in them. Instead of wondering if they measured up to his standards, they began thinking about how they could live up to his expectations. He gained more influence with that one statement than he would have with a 20-minute recitation of his resume. Look for opportunities to highlight others' strengths, contributions, and potential. When someone shares an idea in a meeting, acknowledge its value before building on it. When introducing colleagues to each other, mention something impressive about each person. When someone accomplishes something significant, make sure others know about it. But let me ask you this: what drives the need to impress people in the first place? Usually, it's insecurity disguised as confidence. It's the fear that if people don't know how accomplished you are, they won't value your opinions or respect your ideas. This fear is misguided. People are far more likely to value your opinions when they feel valued by you. They're more likely to respect your ideas when you've shown respect for theirs. They're more likely to support your agenda when you've demonstrated commitment to their success. The shift from impressing to uplifting requires changing your mindset about what makes you valuable. Your value doesn't come from being superior to others. It comes from being helpful to others. Your worth isn't demonstrated by what you've achieved. It's demonstrated by how you treat people regardless of what they've achieved. Start practicing this immediately. In your next conversation, resist the urge to share your accomplishments and instead focus on discovering and celebrating the other person's strengths. Ask about their proudest moments. Inquire about their current challenges, and offer to help if you can. Share encouragement and express confidence in their abilities. Notice how this changes the dynamic of your interactions. People become more animated, more open, more engaged when they feel elevated rather than evaluated. They associate you with feeling good about themselves, which makes them want to be around you more. Your reputation will be built not on the impressive things you say about yourself, but on how impressive you make others feel. Your influence will grow not because people admire your achievements, but because they appreciate your investment in their success. In a world where most people are fighting to prove their worth, your willingness to affirm the worth of others becomes your greatest differentiator. Don't try to impress, try to uplift. The difference will transform not just your influence, but your entire approach to relationships. Kindness does not mean passivity. This chapter explores how to be friendly without losing your edge or boundaries. One of the most dangerous myths about likability is that being kind means being weak, that showing warmth requires sacrificing strength, that being friendly means saying yes to everything and no to nothing. This confusion has led countless people to either abandon kindness in pursuit of respect or embrace people-pleasing in the name of being nice. Both approaches fail. The person who chooses coldness over warmth might gain short-term compliance, but they lose long-term loyalty and influence. The person who chooses weakness over strength might avoid immediate conflict, but they lose respect and, ultimately, effectiveness. True influence requires both warmth and strength. Warmth without strength is ineffective. Strength without warmth is unlikable. But when you combine genuine care for others with clear boundaries and confident decision-making, you become both respected and beloved. Warmth is about how you treat people. Strength is about how you treat principles and standards. You can be warm toward individuals while being strong about values. You can be kind in your interactions while being firm in your expectations. You can be friendly in your demeanor while being decisive in your actions. I learned this lesson from observing a manager who was universally loved by her team and consistently delivered exceptional results. She remembered birthdays, asked about family members, and showed genuine concern when employees were struggling. But she also held high standards, made tough decisions when necessary, and never hesitated to address performance issues directly. Her secret was that she separated people from problems. She could be warm and supportive toward an individual while being firm about unacceptable behavior. She could express care for someone's well-being while maintaining clear expectations about their work. She understood that true kindness sometimes requires difficult conversations. The key is to lead with warmth while maintaining access to strength. Start every interaction from a place of positive regard and genuine care. Show people that you see them as human beings worthy of respect and consideration. But don't abandon your standards, your values, or your boundaries in an effort to maintain that warmth. When you need to say no, do it with explanation and empathy. I can see this is important to you, and I wish I could help. Unfortunately, I'm not able to take on additional projects right now because I'm committed to delivering excellence on my current responsibilities. When you need to address a problem, focus on behavior rather than character. I noticed the reports have been late the last 2 weeks. Help me understand what's happening and how we can get back on track rather than you're always late with everything. When you need to make a difficult decision, acknowledge the impact while explaining the reasoning. I know this change will be disruptive, and I don't make it lightly. Here's why I believe it's necessary for our long-term success. But here's what most people don't understand about combining warmth and strength. It's not about being warm sometimes and strong other times. It's about being both simultaneously. It's about caring deeply while standing firmly. It's about being personally gracious while being professionally uncompromising. This requires emotional maturity and self-awareness. You must know what you stand for and be willing to defend it, even when doing so is uncomfortable. You must care about relationships while refusing to sacrifice important principles to maintain them. People respect those who have clear boundaries because boundaries demonstrate self-respect. They trust those who keep their word because consistency builds confidence. They follow those who make difficult decisions because leadership requires courage. At the same time, people are drawn to those who show genuine care for their well-being, who treat them with dignity regardless of their position, who remember that business is ultimately about human beings serving other human beings. Your warmth makes people want to work with you. Your strength makes them confident they should work with you. Together, these qualities create the foundation for lasting influence and meaningful relationships. Practice this balance in small situations first. Be genuinely friendly with a difficult colleague while maintaining your professional standards. Show care for the struggling team member while holding them accountable for their results. Express empathy for someone's challenges while not accepting excuses for poor performance. The world needs more people who can be both kind and strong, both caring and courageous, both warm and wise. These aren't competing qualities. They're complementary strengths that, when combined, create the kind of influence that changes lives and organizations for the better. Your kindness should never be mistaken for weakness, and your strength should never be confused with cruelty. When you master this balance, you become the kind of person others want to follow, support, and emulate. Small talk rarely moves people. Learn how to shift conversations from surface to meaningful, and why that makes you unforgettable. Most conversations happen in shallow water. People exchange pleasantries about weather, traffic, and weekend plans. They ask about jobs, hobbies, and current events. These interactions are safe, predictable, and completely forgettable. If you want to be influential, you must learn to dive deeper. Meaningful conversations happen when you ask questions that reveal something important about who someone really is, what they care about, and how they see the world. These questions require courage to ask and vulnerability to answer, but they create connections that surface-level chatter never can. The difference between small talk and meaningful conversation is the difference between knowing someone's name and knowing their story. Anyone can learn that someone works in marketing and lives in the suburbs, but it takes real interest and skill to discover what initially drew them to their field, what challenges they're facing in their current role, or what they hope to accomplish in the next chapter of their career. Here's the secret. People are hungry for meaningful conversation. They're tired of discussing the same superficial topics in the same predictable ways. They want to share what really matters to them, but they rarely get permission to do so. When you create space for deeper dialogue, people light up. Start by asking questions that invite reflection rather than just information. Instead of, "How was your weekend?" Try, "What did you do this weekend that restored your energy?" Instead of, "What do you do for work?" Try, "What's the most interesting challenge you're working on right now?" Notice the difference. The first questions can be answered automatically, without thought. The second questions require the person to pause, reflect, and share something more meaningful about their experience. But the art of deep conversation isn't just about asking better opening questions. It's about following up with curiosity and genuine interest. When someone shares something meaningful, don't immediately move on to your next question or your own related story. Stay with their response. Explore it further. If someone mentions they're working on a challenging project, ask what makes it challenging. If they talk about a recent accomplishment, ask what they're most proud of about how they achieved it. If they mention a struggle they're facing, ask what they've learned about themselves through the experience. I once had a conversation with someone at a conference who asked me about the most important lesson I'd learned in the past year. This wasn't a typical networking question, and it caught me off guard in the best possible way. I found myself sharing a deeply personal story about failure, recovery, and growth. The conversation lasted an hour and created a connection that continues years later. That person understood something most people miss. Authentic connection happens when you invite people to share their truth, not just their facts. Your facts are what you do. Your truth is who you are, what you believe, what you've learned, what you hope for. Here are some questions that consistently lead to meaningful conversations. What's something you've changed your mind about recently? What are you learning about yourself these days? What would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? What's a belief you hold that most people in your field would disagree with? These questions work because they require introspection. They can't be answered with rehearsed responses. They invite the person to share something authentic about their inner world, but be prepared. When you ask meaningful questions, you must be ready to listen to meaningful answers. This means putting away distractions, maintaining eye contact, and creating space for the person to think and respond fully. It means being genuinely curious about their perspective, even if it's different from your own. It also means being willing to share meaningfully yourself. Deep conversation is reciprocal. If you ask someone to be vulnerable, you must be prepared to be vulnerable in return. If you invite them beneath the surface, you must be willing to go there yourself. The person who consistently creates space for meaningful conversation becomes magnetic. People remember not just what you talked about, but how the conversation made them feel. They associate you with feeling heard, understood, and valued for who they really are. This approach transforms networking from a superficial exchange of business cards into a genuine exploration of shared interests and complementary strengths. It changes casual encounters into potential friendships. It turns routine interactions into memorable connections. Your willingness to go beneath the surface communicates several powerful messages: that you see others as complex, interesting human beings rather than just their roles or titles, that you have the emotional maturity to handle real conversation, and that you're secure enough in yourself to be genuinely curious about others. Practice this gradually. You don't need to turn every conversation into a deep philosophical discussion, but look for opportunities to ask one meaningful question in each significant interaction. Notice how people respond when you invite them to share something that matters to them. In a world saturated with surface-level interaction, your commitment to meaningful conversation becomes a rare gift. Offer this gift generously and watch how it transforms your relationships and your influence. Humility is magnetic. You don't need to be perfect to be liked. You just need to be human. The people who try hardest to appear perfect are often the least likable. They present flawless facades that make others feel inadequate by comparison. They speak only of their successes and never their struggles. They project an image of having it all figured out while everyone else is still learning. This approach creates distance, not connection. True likability comes from the opposite direction, from showing people that you're human, flawed, and still figuring things out just like they are. When you admit your mistakes, acknowledge your weaknesses, and share your struggles, you become relatable. You give others permission to be imperfect too. But here's the crucial part. Admitting your flaws is not about self-deprecation or fishing for compliments. It's about authentic self-awareness combined with confident self-acceptance. It's saying, yes, I have limitations, and I'm working on them, rather than, I'm terrible at everything, please tell me I'm not. The difference is profound. Self-deprecation makes people uncomfortable because they feel pressured to contradict you or boost your ego. Authentic humility makes people comfortable because it creates space for real, honest interaction. I learned this lesson early in my speaking career when I was desperately trying to project expertise and authority. I would never admit when I didn't know something or when I had made mistakes. The result was that audiences saw me as distant and unapproachable. They might have respected my knowledge, but they didn't connect with me as a person. Everything changed when I began sharing my failures along with my successes. I talked about presentations that went poorly and what I learned from them. I admitted when I didn't have all the answers to audience questions. I shared stories of times when my advice didn't work and how that led to better understanding them. Response was immediate and powerful. Audiences became more engaged, more trusting, more willing to share their own challenges and vulnerabilities. They saw me as someone who understood their struggles because I had struggled too. My influence actually increased when I stopped trying to appear infallible. This principle applies to all relationships, not just professional ones. When you admit to your spouse that you don't have all the answers about parenting, you create space for collaboration rather than competition. When you acknowledge to your team that you're still learning about leadership, you invite their patience and support rather than their judgment. The key is to admit flaws without dwelling on them or using them as excuses. I'm not naturally organized, so I've had to develop systems to keep track of important details is very different from, I'm so disorganized, I can't keep track of anything. The first statement acknowledges a weakness while showing how you're addressing it. The second just complains. Share your growth areas alongside your growth efforts. I used to be terrible at giving feedback, so I've been reading about it, and practicing with trusted colleagues shows self-awareness and commitment to improvement. This makes you human and admirable, not weak and incompetent. But let me ask you this. What are you afraid will happen if people see your flaws? Most people fear that others will lose respect for them or think less of their capabilities. In reality, the opposite usually happens. People respect those who are honest about their limitations and actively working to improve them. The strongest leaders I know are those who can say, "I made a mistake," without losing credibility. The most trusted colleagues are those who can admit when they don't know something rather than pretending they do. The most beloved friends are those who share their struggles alongside their successes. Your flaws don't disqualify you from influence. Hiding them does. When you pretend to be perfect, you create an impossible standard that exhausts you and intimidates others. When you acknowledge your humanity, you create connection and trust. Start small. Admit when you don't know something instead of trying to fake it. Share a mistake you made and what you learned from it. Acknowledge an area where you're still growing, rather than pretending you've mastered everything. Notice how people respond to your honesty. Most will appreciate your authenticity and feel more comfortable being honest themselves. They'll see you as someone they can trust with their own imperfections and struggles. Your willingness to be imperfect in public gives others permission to be imperfect too. This creates relationships based on reality rather than pretense, connection rather than competition, growth rather than stagnation. You don't need to be perfect to be influential. You just need to be genuine, self-aware, and committed to becoming better. That combination of humility and determination is far more magnetic than any facade of perfection could ever be. People remember the end more than the middle. This chapter teaches how to close conversations with warmth, clarity, and connection. Your last words linger longest. The final moments of any interaction create the lasting impression that colors how people remember the entire experience. Yet, most people end conversations carelessly, missing one of their most powerful opportunities to build connection and influence. Think about the conversations you've had this week. You probably remember little about what happened in the middle of most interactions, but you likely have clear memories of how they ended. Did someone rush off rudely? Did they leave you feeling valued and appreciated? Did they create anticipation for future contact, or did they close the door on further connection? The end of a conversation is like the final note of a song. It determines whether people walk away humming your melody or trying to forget it. Master this moment, and you transform ordinary interactions into memorable experiences that make people want to see you again. But most people handle endings poorly. They let conversations trail off without clear conclusion. They glance at their phones while saying goodbye. They rush away without acknowledging the value of the time shared. They end on logistics, "I should probably get going," rather than on connection. Effective conversation endings accomplish three things. They acknowledge the value of the interaction. They express genuine appreciation for the other person, and they create a bridge to future connection. This doesn't require elaborate speeches or dramatic gestures, just intentional attention to how you close. I learned the power of purposeful endings from watching a colleague who was universally beloved despite being one of the busiest people in our organization. She never had much time for long conversations, but she always ended interactions in ways that made people feel valued and important. Instead of saying, "I have to run," she would say, "I'm so glad we had a chance to talk. Your perspective on this project really helps me think about it differently." Instead of "see you later," she would say, "I look forward to hearing how your presentation goes. You're going to do great." These endings took no more time than casual goodbyes, but they left people feeling energized and appreciated rather than dismissed or forgotten. She understood that the quality of the ending matters more than the length of the conversation. Here's how to end conversations with impact. First, acknowledge something specific that you appreciated about the interaction. "I really enjoyed hearing about your trip to Costa Rica. Your description of the wildlife made me feel like I was there with you." This shows you were paying attention and found value in what they shared. Second, highlight something you appreciated about them as a person. Your passion for teaching really comes through when you talk about your students. They're lucky to have someone who cares so much about their success. This kind of acknowledgement makes people feel seen and valued for who they are, not just what they do. Third, when appropriate, create a bridge to future connection. I'd love to continue this conversation sometime. Can we grab coffee next week? Or I'll be thinking about what you said about work-life balance. Let me know how that new routine works out for you. But the key to authentic endings is that they must be genuine. Don't say you enjoyed something if you didn't. Don't promise future contact if you don't intend to follow through. Don't compliment someone just to end on a positive note. People can sense authenticity, and fake enthusiasm is worse than simple politeness. For professional interactions, you might end with, "This was exactly the kind of conversation I was hoping to have today. Your insights about the market trends are going to influence how I approach this project." For social interactions, it means so much to catch up with you. Hearing about your family's adventures always brightens my day. Even brief encounters can benefit from intentional endings. With the barista, "Thank you for the recommendation. This coffee is perfect." With the elevator companion, "I hope your presentation goes well today." With the colleague in the hallway, "Thanks for the quick update. It's helpful to know where things stand." Pay attention to your body language during endings as well. Make eye contact when you say goodbye. Turn your full attention to the person for those final moments rather than already mentally moving to your next activity. A warm handshake, appropriate touch on the shoulder, or genuine smile reinforces your words. The goal is not to make every goodbye elaborate or emotional. The goal is to be present and intentional in those final moments, ensuring that people walk away feeling positive about the time they spent with you. Your commitment to ending interactions well demonstrates respect for others and confidence in your own value. It shows that you see conversations as opportunities to connect, not just exchange information. It reveals that you understand the importance of making people feel valued and appreciated. Practice this awareness starting today. Notice how you typically end conversations and experiment with more intentional closings. Pay attention to how people respond when you acknowledge them genuinely before parting ways. The last impression you leave becomes the first impression for your next interaction. Make it count. This final chapter ties everything together. Likability isn't about performance. It's about presence, consistency, and sincere care. You now understand the individual skills that create likability, the specific behaviors, attitudes, and approaches that make people want to be around you. But true influence comes when these techniques become more than just techniques. It comes when they transform into a way of being, a consistent presence that uplifts everyone you encounter. The ultimate goal is not to perform likability, but to embody it. Not to use these principles when it serves your purposes, but to live them because they reflect your values. Not to manipulate people into liking you, but to genuinely become someone worth liking. This transformation happens when you shift your fundamental question from "how can I get people to like me?" to "how can I make people feel better about themselves when they're with me?" The first question makes you the center of the interaction. The second question makes them the center, while paradoxically making you more magnetic. People are drawn to those who make them feel good about themselves. They trust those who see their potential rather than just their problems. They follow those who believe in them even when they don't believe in themselves. When you consistently provide this kind of experience, you become someone people seek out, support, and remember fondly. But this isn't about being fake positive or ignoring real problems. It's about choosing to see the good in people while helping them see it too. It's about focusing on possibilities rather than limitations. It's about treating people based on their potential rather than their past. Every interaction you have is an opportunity to leave someone feeling better than before. The grocery store cashier who seems tired might brighten when you ask how her Day is going, and actually listen to the answer. The colleague who's struggling with a project might feel encouraged when you acknowledge their effort and express confidence in their abilities. The person sitting alone at the networking event might feel welcomed when you approach with genuine interest in their story. The friend going through a difficult time might feel supported when you remember to follow up on something they shared weeks ago. This approach requires you to be fully present in each moment and genuinely interested in the welfare of others. It means putting down your phone when someone is speaking to you. It means remembering that the person serving your coffee is a human being with their own hopes and struggles. It means treating the janitor with the same respect you show the CEO. Consistency is crucial. You can't be warm and encouraging with people who can help you while being dismissive of those who can't. You can't show interest in others when you need something while ignoring them when you don't. People notice these inconsistencies, and they destroy trust faster than any single positive action can build it. The most influential people I know bring the same quality of attention and care to every interaction, regardless of the other person's status, position, or ability to help them. They understand that character is revealed not in how you treat those above you, but in how you treat those below you. This way of being becomes its own reward. When you consistently make others feel valued, you begin to feel more valuable yourself. When you focus on bringing out the best in others, you discover the best in yourself. When you approach relationships with genuine care rather than calculated self-interest, you build connections that enrich your life in ways that go far beyond professional advancement. But let me be clear about something. This approach is not about being everyone's friend or saying yes to every request. Healthy boundaries and clear standards are essential parts of being someone people respect as well as like. You can care about people's well-being while holding them accountable for their behavior. You can be warm and encouraging while also being honest and direct when necessary. The goal is to become someone whose presence makes life better for others. Someone who listens more than they speak, who asks better questions than they give answers, who celebrates others' successes more than their own. Someone who remembers what matters to people and follows up with genuine interest. Start where you are. You don't need to transform overnight or perfectly implement every principle immediately. Choose one or two areas to focus on first. Maybe it's remembering names better. Maybe it's asking more meaningful questions. Maybe it's ending conversations more thoughtfully. Practice these skills until they become habits, and practice these habits until they become character. Let them change not just how you act, but how you see others and yourself. Let them transform your relationships from transactions into connections, your interactions from performances into authentic exchanges. The world needs more people who make others feel seen, heard, valued, and capable. Your commitment to becoming this kind of person is a gift not just to those around you, but to yourself. It's how you build a life filled with meaningful relationships, genuine influence, and lasting impact. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it.